Hi, and welcome to lesson 11, where we're going back to the treble clef again. Previously in the treble clef, we've learned about the notes C, D, E, and F. And we've learnt to play C with the thumb, D with the second finger, E with the third finger, and F with the fourth finger. So you've probably guessed what we're going to do today. Yes, we're going to learn about the note G, which we're going to play with the fifth finger. The fifth finger is the weakest finger for most people, so you might find it's quite awkward when the fifth finger gets started. And some people find that when they put the fifth finger down, it goes a bit flat, so it sticks out a little bit. Or when they put the fifth finger on a note, the whole hand starts to collapse. So we've been practicing some really good habits, haven't we, with keeping our hand in this nice droopy position. And when we put the hand on the keys, we're keeping the top of the hand nice and flat here. We've got that thumb well located, and then we're going to play on fingertips. So when you get finger number 5 going, make sure that you can play with the fingertip and that the finger doesn't go straight and you end up sort of dropping onto the keys with a sort of rather flat finger. So practice that fingertip position with finger 5. And before we go any further with this, you just might want to find G, this note here, and see if you can get finger number 5 just to repeat some G's so you feel quite comfortable about doing that. Now you'll notice that I haven't got the rest of my fingers sticking up in the air. I've got the rest of my fingers over the other keys, C, D, E and F. So I'm holding those in position and I'm practicing getting my fifth finger to play that G on the fingertip. So that's something that's just sort of worth practicing for a while. And then you may just want to try practicing playing up and down these 5 notes, C, D, E, F, G. Then maybe come down again, G, F, E, D, C. Making sure, of course, that you've got the right fingers on the right notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then coming down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as you're playing up and down those notes, try to make sure that you've got a nice even sound. For example, you don't want the fifth finger suddenly to play louder than the other notes because the fifth finger is not quite in control. I'll show you the sort of thing that we're trying to avoid. You might go up C, D, E and F with a nice kind of reasonably even sound, and then you might suddenly go and the G might suddenly stick out like that. So you have to control it so all the notes blend in together. So the next thing you might try to do is to play those 5 notes quite strongly. So we can go up quite loudly and then come down quite loudly as well. Remember, don't press on the keys, but try to get the keys down quite quickly, because the faster you get the keys down, the louder the sound will be. And if you can do that, then try to do the same thing quietly. So we're going to get the keys to go down a little more slowly, but we're still going to kind of keep the movement clean from one note to the next. If you don't quite get the key down fast enough, you'll find that maybe the note doesn't sound at all. You just get a silent note. So you have to listen carefully and control the sound so you've got a lovely even sound. And as is always the case with music, try to be led by your ears. Listen to the sound and just ask yourself what you're hearing. Do you hear 5 even notes? Or do you hear one note sticking out or one note being a bit quiet? And so you can kind of get practiced in playing the 5 notes nice and evenly at the same volume. Okay, well, let's have a look at the board and see if we can learn about the new note in terms of how it's written down. Now, we know that this note here is middle C. And we've covered the ground for this note. The space just up one from C which is D. Then we've learned that this note on the bottom line of the stave is E. See the pattern? Line, space, line. We've just got C going up one move from that line to the space next door, going from C to D. And then D going up one move from the space below the stave onto the bottom line of the stave. So that's going D to E. And then we've learnt that the bottom space inside the stave is F. And so you know what's coming. This second line up of the stave must be G. It's going through the alphabet, isn't it? C, D, E, F, G. And we're going up from there by step, by step, by step, by step. And you can see this pattern very clearly now. Line, space, line, space, line. And that's how the whole system will carry on working when we eventually get to learn more notes higher up on that treble clef stave. This is also a good moment to talk again about the treble clef, because we said that this curly-whirly thing is a treble clef. It's also sometimes known as the G clef, because you might have noticed that it's actually wrapped around the second line of the stave. This bit wraps around line 2. And line 2, we're now learning, is the note G. So this is the treble clef, but it's also the G clef because it's showing us this note G. So if ever you forget what the notes are in the treble clef, you can just look at the clef and think, oh yes, it's wrapped around the G line. So once you know where G is, you can think, well, one back from G is F and another one back is E, and so on. You can work out the other notes. So that's why that's sometimes called the treble clef, but sometimes called the G clef, because it's showing you this note, G. Okay, we've talked about the fingering, so let's just put the numbers for the fingering. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, well, you can see that we already have today's tune in front of us. And let's see what we can discover from this. Well, there's the treble clef look, reminding us that this second line here is G, so that's quite useful. And let's see if we can find the new note G. Where's the first G that you can see? Well, we know it's the second line up, don't we? So here it is, there's a G there. There's another one next door to it. And then there's another G a couple of notes on. And the next G comes just before the last note. So those are where the G's come. Let's talk through all of the notes now and see if we can find them all. So this one's middle C, isn't it? Here we are with the extra line below the stave. So there's C, we're going up a step to D, up a step to E, up a step to F, up another step to the new note G, then we're going to play G again. Then we're going to skip from line 2 to line 1. That means we're missing out the note that's in this bottom space. We're missing out the note F, and we're jumping from this line to this line. So we must be going from G down to E. So there's G, we're going down to E. Then we're going to skip up again back to G, and you can notice that this note's the same as this one here. And then we're going to skip down again to E. So you can see a pattern. We've got G, skipping down to E, skipping back up to G, skipping back down to E. Any patterns you can see in music really helps you to read the notes. So this one's E, then we're going down a step to D, down a step to C, and then we've got quite a big jump here, haven't we? Because we're going all the way from C up to our new note G. So you might be able to just know that this is C and this is G, which would be a very helpful thing to know. Or you could say, actually, we're skipping up twice because we're skipping from this line through this line up to the next line. So it's kind of like 2 skips up from C up to G. And then we're going from G and we're doing these 2 skips down again to C at the end. Now, let's see if we can play those notes on the piano. So we're going to rehearse the pitch of this piece without worrying about the rhythm. So we're in the treble clef, so we're playing in the right hand, remember. So thumb on C, second finger on D, third finger on E, fourth finger on F, fifth finger on G. Here we go. So start with C, up a step to D, up a step to E, up another step to F, up another step to G. Then we're going to play G again. Then we're skipping down to E, skipping up to G, skipping down to E, down a step to D, down a step to C, and then we're making a double skip, 2 skips up to G, and 2 skips back again to C. So I hope that helps you to find the pitch of this piece of music. Now, let's talk about the rhythm. And one thing you might have noticed is that this time we've put the number 2 at the front. Well, we've done quite a lot of pieces now with 4 and with 3, but I'm sure you can see what this means. It's simply telling us that there are 2 beats in a bar. So if I've got a crotchet and a crotchet in the first bar, that's 1 and 1. So you can see that that's made up the first 2 beats. So we have a bar line. Another 2 crotchets taking up the 2 beats of bar 2. So another bar line. Then we've got a minim. Well, we know a minim's worth 2 beats. So that must be filling up the whole bar. And then another minim there, and so on. So in fact, this piece is all crotchets and minims. And as you can imagine, we can't possibly have dotted minims if we've only got 2 beats in a bar. We can't put 3 beats into a 2-beat bar. And we can't possibly have semi-breves either, because obviously you can't put 4 beats into a 2-beat bar. So we're going to deal in this piece with crotchets and with minims. So let's see if we can clap the rhythm, counting 2 in each bar. So I'll count 2 for nothing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, well, I hope we're now ready to have a go at playing this piece with both the pitch and the rhythm in place. Let's see how we get on. I'll count 2 for nothing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I hope that makes sense. And if there's anything that's causing you trouble there, this would be a good time to pause and just go back over either the rhythm or the pitch or both, whatever's causing a problem, until you get happy about it, and then try running that again and see if it goes a bit more smoothly the second time round. Okay, now we've got 2 phrases in our piece, haven't we? We've got 4 bars in the first phrase, the first kind of musical sentence, and then we've got another 4 bars in the second phrase, our second sentence. And earlier in this lesson we were practicing playing these 5 notes loudly and quietly. And that's one thing that you might be asked to do in a piece of music. You might be asked to play notes at different volumes. And so we're going to try doing that in this piece. And I'm going to write F at the beginning, and then I'm going to write P for the second phrase. Now you might be wondering what on earth I've done that for. We need to get into a little bit of Italian to understand why I've used F and P. F believe it or not, stands for loud. Now you might think, well, why didn't he write L? Because L stands for loud. But in Italian, F is forte. And forte is the Italian word that means loud. P is the Italian word piano. And piano means quietly. So if ever you see F in a piece of music, you play loudly, and if ever you see P in a piece of music, you play quietly. Remember what we said earlier? If you want to play loudly, you don't do that by pressing on the bottom of the keys. You know, I'm going to put this note down, I'm going to press really hard on that key. It's not playing very loudly, is it? In fact, it's not playing at all. But it's all about the speed at which you get the key down. So if you put a key down slowly, it plays quietly. If you put a key down quickly, it will play loudly for you. So let's see if we can play our tune now. We're going to play forte in the first half, that's loudly, and we're going to play piano in the second half, which is quietly. Okay, I'll count 2 for nothing. 1, 2. And you can see how effective it is because we get a lovely contrast, don't we? With that big, bold start and then a much quieter, atmospheric finish. So that's something else to practice, seeing if we can do the forte and the piano as well. Well, I think we're ready to play today's duet. So here we go. You can practice it with the forte and the piano if you want to, or if you've got enough on dealing with the notes and the rhythm and the fingering, that's fine. You can always come back and put these in later. But it's certainly worth getting to the point where you can do those as well as everything else to really get the mood of the piece across. Okay, so all set then for the first note. So you've got the right hand in position with the thumb over middle C, number 2 over D, number 3 over E, number 4 over F, number 5 over G. I'll count 2 for nothing. Here we go. We're going to play loudly, remember, for the first half and quietly for the second half. 1, 2. You can see and hear how effective it is to make that contrast from loud to quiet between the first 2 phrases. Now, one last thing I'm going to cover before we leave this lesson. I said earlier on that when you've got 2 beats in a bar, you really can't have a note that's longer than a minim, because once you've got a 2-beat note, you've filled up the bar, haven't you? But one trick you can do is this. You can use something called a tie. So when you have 2 notes next door to each other that are exactly the same pitch, you can tie them together. So I'm going to count 2 on this G and 2 on that G, which means, of course, I've got a 4-beat note. I'm not taking 4 beats out of one bar, I'm taking 2 beats out of this bar, and I'm adding them to 2 beats in this bar. So if I tie them together, I can have a note that's actually 4 beats long. So if I play the first phrase without the tie, which is what we've been doing, it sounds like this, doesn't it? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. But if I tie those 2 notes together, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I just get one note sounding there. So that's how a composer can use longer notes in a situation where you've only got 2 beats in the bar. So that's the tie. When you use a tie, you can only tie together two notes that belong to the same pitch. You know, I couldn't tie together this G with this E because I've got to move, haven't I, from G to E. So I can only do it here because those two notes are the same pitch. Anyway, lots of new things to take on board in that lesson. And when you're happy about all of that, come back for the last lesson in this first series when we'll be learning a new note in the bass clef.